we just have like two things mostly to discuss about, and then we are gonna be making some announcements about the winter break. So yeah, that's basically all we have. So it shouldn't be a super long meeting. But with that being said, the first item on our agenda would be to call to order. So this meeting is now called to order, and that leaves us with the next item, which is officer reports. So the first officer report we have coming up is by our student body president, Naya. So yeah, feel free to just go ahead, Naya, and if people have any questions, you can ask them at the end. Barely, but we can.
Okay, can you hear me now better?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Okay. Sorry, I had my AirPods. My bad. Okay, yeah. Not too many things. Yeah, so starting off, we hired our new executive staff member, Faith Lopez, and she'll be taking over the government relations director position. So congrats to her. We're excited to have her on the staff. I've been working on the women's leadership. As we confirm things, we'll have more information, but the estimated date for that is going to be March 31st. Sorry, it keeps connecting to my earpods. Ethan and I attended a strategic planning meeting with athletics about a week ago. Within that, we discussed. Sorry, I had to put him in the thing. Yeah, with that, we discussed like specifically like fundraising efforts and involvement. Attended KBOR this past week. Met with the other university student body presidents, which was really good. We just discussed like what our goals were moving forward with KBOR. We discussed higher ed day week, what that could possibly look like. And then we're also establishing a new subcommittee with all of our student government, like government relation directors. Each school has a different name for them, but essentially that's what it'll be. And then I've been meeting with various students on campus just to discuss like KU and Lawrence affairs, things that have happened, things that will possibly be happening, how that's affecting them, different things like that. And then I've been working with various executive staff members on projects that we'll be closing out the semester with, so I'm excited for those. I met with Jill Hummels last week to discuss communication plans, how to better reach our constituents or having access to better reach our constituents, which is students. And then just overall communication efforts across campus. We had a really good conversation, and I think that there's some good things that are going to be coming up, and so I'll be looking forward to like continuing to bring those up to the provost and working with her on how we can better have the communications team be like more accountable to getting us that access. And then just outreach efforts to students, how to get students more involved in like the various student senate committees and boards, specifically the ones that like I appoint to, but really just senate in general, because I know that's something we've all been working on this year, but obviously with COVID and just kind of like getting back into the swing of things with in-person classes and stuff like that, students have been really busy, and it is a lot of labor. So yeah. And then, yeah, working with obviously staff, planning for winter break, and then next semester plans. If you guys have any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much, Naya. Do folks have any questions for our president? All right, so now we can go to our next officer report, which is our student body vice president, Ethan.
All right, thank you, Humberto. All right, first thing I'll start off with is the obvious here. The SSR rewrite has been completed, and we're going to be holding a review session from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. tomorrow to sort of like go over the document and sort of offer a forum for senators who would like to ask questions and or understand it more maybe after reading it. And then we might also look at Wednesday ahead of Senate, maybe offering another session, but that really just depends on what we can get to work with the schedule this week. Next here, the Associate Vice Provost who will be succeeding Dr. Tuttle's position should be selected in the next few weeks here. The committee has sent 2 candidates to Dr. Durham with favorable recommendation, and ultimately she'll have the final choice as to how that turns out. But all in all, like both candidates that were reviewed for the position and that have made it into this recommendation are absolutely amazing candidates and will be pretty good folks to work with. However it goes in terms of like the hiring process and what Dr. Durham eventually decides there. Next here, University Senate will meet this week on Thursday to discuss the Academic Policy and Procedures Committee's recommendations for program discontinuation. This has been a discussion that we've been having since last year, especially looking at programs like humanities and cultural studies, potentially looking at losing funding in the university level. And so really looking at how we can best advocate for them in that space and like with the recommendations that we've seen from that committee. Any student is able to, attend University Senate and be there for the discussion. So, I would encourage folks to attend that meeting if they do have something that they would like to express, or also just come to me or any of your StudEx or University Senate representatives to sort of decide like what you would like to, be put as the focus of that meeting as well. As Naya said, we met with the chancellor this past week here. A lot of the items we discussed were related to trigger warning sexual assault in the town hall that we'll be having on Tuesday this week. We then also discussed the Claxon housing resolutions that Student Senate passed in the cycle. And had like a pretty insightful conversation, at least in terms of like what student housing's role is at the university and how we can look at improving that in the future. Really, we're continuing to look at having gender inclusive housing expanded on this campus, but it's just going to be an ongoing conversation with student housing to sort of get them to see past the numbers on that in regards to like the need for it on campus. And then finally here, we also discussed the vaccine mandate on campus and how that's going to be affecting student employees. Ultimately, the chancellor said that while, the deadline here is going to be in December, they are going to be basically using that time between the deadline KU has and the new federal deadline in January to sort of coax into people who haven't sent those vaccination records, be like, are you going to get an exemption, or is this something that you're going to submit, just to sort of really get ground. The university hasn't commented though on whether or not they're going to be firing employees or not if vaccination records aren't submitted. And let's see here. Last but not least, there will be a Memorial Corporation board meeting this Saturday. And so if you have any ideas that you have about the Memorial Corporation that relates to KU dining, the Kansas unions, stuff like that, please feel free to bring that to Naya or I or Faith as well, because we are going to be in that meeting with them and sort of sharing a student senate report of what's been going on over the past year. And so any insights that y'all would like to offer in that would be amazing. And with that, I believe that'll be the end of my officer report. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ethan? All right, seeing none, we're going to move to our next officer report. Thank you, Ethan, which is by our grad student vice president, Holly.
Hi, everyone. Not to go over what Naya and Ethan said, because that would just be boring. Obviously, we met with the Chancellor. We'll be at University Senate on Thursday as well, along with Ethan. The Graduate Student Advisory Board met last Tuesday with the Provost. That went well. We just discussed issues of graduate student governance on campus and some other things, mainly to do with insurance and equitable pay for graduate students, so on and so forth, kind of the things that we've been trying to fight for this past year. The Watson Centennial Building Committee met on the 19th, and that was our last meeting before plans will be officially put forward for the redo of the Watson Library. So I'm on that committee and I went to that. And that's looking really good and looking like there's going to be a lot better spaces for students to study, and also it's going to be made much more of an accessible space, so that's great. The Kansas Board of Regents Insurance Committee is also meeting this upcoming Wednesday on December 1. I'll be going to that meeting and just making sure that other institutions know that graduate students that don't have a full 0.5 FTE position are put in the voluntary plan, and how I'm going to bring up the idea of maybe revoting, because the vote that we made, we didn't have that information. I don't know if that can actually happen or not, but I'm going to try and see what I can do to advocate for the graduate students on our campus that fall into that category. Dr. Roberts is also working on another way to help those graduate students so they don't have such a large increase in insurance next year. So either way, it looks like there will be some kind of a resolution on that. And the last thing that I just wanted to mention is that when we met with the Chancellor, something that got brought up along with Naira and Ethan was the lack of good housing for graduate students on our campus, specifically graduate students that are here maybe studying abroad or that have not been able to visit the area before, so they don't really know where they're going or where they should live. And there we have issues with graduate students ending up living in environments that are not conducive to the graduate student life. So that's something I'll be meeting with Sarah Waters over the break to discuss and see what can be done in that regard. But I believe that is everything that I have for you today.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Holly? All right, seeing none, we're going to move to my officer report. Just let me finish chewing this that I have in my mouth. All right, so sorry. So for my officer report, I mostly have, well, as Ethan mentioned already, the Constitution got all rewritten, and it got approved in all 4 committees. We're going to be discussing, well, I mean, of course, the whole Constitution didn't go through all the committees because there's different parts that pertain to different committees' charges. So finance reviewed all the charges related to finance in our current SSRR. Same with UA, same with EI, and Rights did get to review the whole document, considering Rights has a specific charge of reviewing all amendments to the to SSRR. So unfortunately, like, it went through all of the committees. There were just some like minor suggestions or possible amendments that we're going to be discussing today, like in our item Q of the agenda, but it's not super long. We're not going to really discuss the whole Constitution because, first of all, most like a lot of parts are just like reorganizing and restructuring and not so much like changing something too deeply. And then in other cases, like major changes that are like coming through got discussed in committees. They, some like went through straight away, some needed more conversation, but everyone has access to the document. So like I highly encourage folks, everyone here, like we would really appreciate your input. Now that we have like a very finalized document, to just look over it, see if like there's anything that is missing, anything that you are I don't know, confused about, something that is not very clear, something we should add, something that you don't think we should go forward with. We would really appreciate everyone's input. But yeah, so a lot of our time was spent on that, besides just like getting the courts filled up, which they finally did. Got more replacement senators set in place, which is great. And we're going to be confirming just Faith is next upcoming full Senate. But that is mostly what I have. Are there any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. With that, we can move to our next officer report, which is by Hamad, our treasurer.
Hello. So for cycle 7, we have about 7 bills coming through, 3 of which are directly connected to the SSR rewrite. The other 4, the other 4 are funding bills. 3 of them are general funding for student groups, and the 4th one is for the keyless entry bill that is not authored by me. So it was going to be presented in full Senate. As far as unallocated tracker goes, that would be a total of $4,512 coming this cycle. If approved, let's see, we would have about $25,281 remaining in the unallocated, and the recommended allocation for cycle 8 at the beginning of the next semester will be about $5,000, $5,056.20. It is kind of worrying to me that we've been not funding that many student groups, and the student groups we did fund with line item, only about 10% of that funding of $160,000+ has been used, and we're already halfway through the year. So I'll be sending an email to all the student groups, letting them know, hey, if you're not planning to use your money, just let us know. But regardless, if they don't use their money, it falls back into our reserve. And with the block line fee allocation coming up in March, I will be keeping a close eye on what money is being used and not being used by student groups, because that may dictate how much allocations are affected this year. Because if we keep allocating thousands of dollars to a student group, but they never use it every year, it'd be really questionable about how we're spending our money, and it's just sitting there. And that's how we get massive reserves. Other than that, I'm meeting with a ton of fee managers right now. Fee review cycles started up 3 weeks ago. I've met with about a quarter of the fee managers thus far. Thank you for those who have been attending, mostly just Casey, myself, Mary, and that's it, yeah. So, and those meetings are primarily all financial. So I didn't have any meetings last week just because it was Thanksgiving week and I needed a week off. But other than that, the fee hearing committee should be convening this month, but since none of the board, not all of the committee was filled, Sadie will be working to get that filled, which puts us back like a couple weeks as far as work goes with the committee. But regardless, we have decided to move forward if the board is meeting or not this month, which it probably won't, considering this month is 2 days left. So the worry there with the board not meeting, the fee committee, is that the questions will be sent late to the fee managers this year in regards to the question packet, which in my personal opinion is fine because they'll get their simulation files by Wednesday this week. Any questions?
Any questions for Hamad? All right. Seeing none, we can move to our next officer report, which is Mary, our associate treasurer.
Hello. So, can you hear me? Yes. No.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm not used to Teams. Anyway, first and foremost, DEI fund. We had our last DEI fund meeting of the semester last week. Week before that. It went really well. I have gotten in contact with those groups, and I'm just waiting on a couple documents from them. I'm getting used to the process, so I should be good to go by next semester, and not need as much as Hamad's help and saving my butt when it comes to a couple different issues that come up. Outside of that, I have been sitting in on fee manager meetings. That has been very interesting, and I feel like I've been learning a lot just kind of from those few meetings that I've been in. I am also planning either a Secret Santa or a White Elephant event with exec and the chairs So keep a lookout for that. I feel like that might be a good little bonding event for our little group. And that's about it.
Thank you so much, Mary. Do folks have any questions for our associate treasurer? All right, see none. We can go ahead and move to our next officer report, which is, I believe it's Radia and Miriam, or whoever is present from CCO. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, we can go ahead and move to our next officer report, which would be Daphne. Yes, Daphne, you can go ahead. Our director of DEI. Oh, okay, yeah, that works fine. So Daphne's gonna drop her officer report. I'm just gonna go ahead and read it real quick for the recording. So town hall on Tuesday, lots of university staff members will be present to answer questions about Title IX on campus. Everyone is welcome to the discussion. It's at 6:30 p.m. in Woodruff Auditorium, which is at the Union. And so there will be posters all around campus and interview about so trigger warning sexual assault policies on our campus. And there should be like an article coming out about that. And then last week, Naya and Daphne met with the dean of the journalism school about the foreign language requirement removal. It was very informative, but not super productive. It was honestly really frustrating and have a lot of thoughts. So if you have questions about the specific, let Daphne know. Daphne has sent a letter and wrote to Asia so that she would be posted on our social media. The vote at the J School is December 8th, I believe, so we'll see how that turns out. And I'll be getting in contact with the people responsible for diversity requirements for the KU Core to see what the process looks like and how we can make it actually useful. And then Naya and Daphne also met with Robert from the ICC last week too and interviewed him for our, what would these initials here be? NAHM.
Native American History Month.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Social media interview series. So look out for those spotlights on our on our socials. And as for sorry, what does ICC mean? Would anyone know by any chance? Oh, Indigenous Community Center. Awesome. Thank you very much. And so as for the DI retreat, they're still waiting to hear back from Caroline about the specifics for our partnership with Teach for America. But Naya and I have been brainstorming and it's going to be really great. And I'm really excited to tell you guys about it when we have more info. And that would be it for Daphne's officer report. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we can go ahead and move to our next officer report, which is Ariana, Director of Policy and Development. I don't know if Ariana's here already or if they're still dealing with duty stuff.
I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, cool. So last Tuesday we had our Share the Warmth social. I would definitely say it was a success. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have as many donations as we had hoped for. We had put boxes out in residence halls. However, the time we had picked them up, the boxes were missing. So we are, I'm still in communication with housing to see what happened and what we can do better in the future with that. However, we still had a decent amount of donations from our boxes in the union. And the event itself was really successful. Was able to have a good amount of good substantive conversations with people, and some people even took items. So hopefully this is something that we can do more times throughout the semester, or not semester, but like the rest of the year. In 2 weeks, we will be having our self-care night on, let me check that date, December 8th, I believe, from 5:30 to 7:30 in the OMA classroom. We're going to have some cookies and like cheese and crackers and drinks. So it's going to be really, really fun. We're very excited. We're going to do a Kahoot about like KU and Kansas history. So it's going to be very fun and something for our senators and committee members to take part of, as well as our lovely, lovely executive staff and everyone on this call right now. So we would really love to have you there. So please come. But that is all that I have for right now. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead.
Any questions for Ariana? All right, so now we can move to our next officer report, which is our Director of Communications, Asia. Oh, awesome. So we also got this one written down, and I'm just gonna go ahead and read it for the recording. Website is close to being submitted for approval, and I'm working with Naya and I think Daphne on doing some interviews and spotlight things on social media too, especially to talk about the Native American History Month. So yeah, thank you very much. Any questions for Asia? All right. Seeing none, we can go ahead and move to our next officer report, which would be Max, our Director of Internal Affairs.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to keep it brief today. Like Naya said, we're kind of working on getting all those boards and committees filled. That should be in like kind of the final steps of that email being sent out, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of outreach out of that. Also related to outreach, I need to meet with Daphne and Ari about the survey results, which we'll probably do in the coming week. And based off of that, we'll look at different demographics that we need to reach out to in order to make Senate a more equitable and diverse space. The Student Senate Mentorship Program has had more applicants now that it's on the website. I'm probably going to post posters around different halls in the coming week in hopes that we can get even more. I think I'm looking at just starting that next semester due to the lack of applicants we've had, and I think it just worked better, or maybe doing it on a rolling basis. That's all I have for now. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate it.
Thank you very much, Max. Any questions for our Internal Affairs Director? All right, with that, we can move to our next officer report, which is Faith Lopez, our new Director of Government Relations and still Chair of University Affairs.
Okay, hi everyone. Super excited to be in this position. This week I've just worked on holidays in higher ed with Birdie and just kind of talking about some turnover tasks and just really seeing where we're standing right now. So we're very excited it's happening this Thursday. I just went ahead and RSVP'd all of the exec, but I will have more updates and put them in the group chat as we proceed. But I think that it'll be a fantastic event, and I'm really excited for everyone to be able to dress up and talk to folks about their passions. So does anyone have any questions, comments, and or concerns?
I do have a quick question. So you said Holidays in Higher Ed is this coming Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. And do we have do we know what confirmed guests we have coming, like out of Student Senate?
Out of Student Senate, yes. I have a list. I'm not at my laptop right now, but it also is a rolling list because some of the folks have been out of the office. And so when we just sent the reminder, you know, it just sent an automated response back. And so we went a little bit higher for the head count, just so that way we can have folks in there.
Sounds good. But you think we have like a good amount of people that are gonna be present at the event?
Yes, we have a good amount. We have at least 40.
Oh, okay. Sounds great. Yeah, that was all the questions I have. Do folks have any other questions for Faith? All right. Well, thank you very much, Faith. It is great to have you on board. Same with you, Mary. I think this is like the first time you also give an officer report, so we're very glad to have y'all here. And yep, just it's gonna be a great next semester. But yeah, with that being said, we can go ahead and move to the next officer report, which is Emma, the chair of DEI.
Hi everyone. So what I've been working on right now, I'll keep it short, is I've been working with Naya and my vice chair Tan to organize an event of a screening of a movie for to raise awareness for missing murdered Indigenous women. So we're going to be doing that on December 9th, and it's going to be in the OMA classroom at 4:30. So we're going to be showing this film, and then there'll be a discussion afterwards. So right now I'm working on reaching out to FINSA and their leadership, as well as some other representatives from Haskell, to see if they want to participate in this discussion with us. But yeah, again, it'll be December 9th in the OMA classroom at 4:30. And then I'm also just working on some outreach stuff for DEI to try and increase attendance. So we're going to be doing some tabling on Wesco. And just trying to incentivize attendance by utilizing our committee funds. So any questions?
Thank you very much, Emma. Any questions for our DEI chair? All right, seeing none, I believe this was our last officer report, since I don't think either Wesley or Sadie are here present. But if they do come, we can give them a chance to just give a brief officer report. So with that, we can go ahead and move to our next item, which would be the regular agenda. And on the regular agenda, we have two things, and as well as something that Hamad requested to add. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to the agenda. It's just a discussion on how we as an office can work without like the staff associate being present, or a staff assistant. I'm not sure what's the position title of Sabine. Is it a associate absent? Yeah, associate. All right. So
Could I
yeah.
also propose two new items for the agenda?
Yeah, of course.
So can one of them be a chat about the date of our winter break meeting to discuss the spring semester?
And the other item?
Discussion about weekend meetings for spring.
All right, sounds good. Yep, so then we have 5 items now, but they shouldn't be super long. First, we can go ahead and start with review and vote on our full Senate agenda, which is right here. As the previous agendas, there's just one officer report, which will be given by Naya. Make sure you send Naya all of anything you would like them to read in the full Senate. Like, please send it to Naya so that they can put it into their speech. But after that, we have, as Hamad said, some bills coming in the consent agenda. So they're just general funding bills. And then we have 2 bills on a regular agenda. One, which is to fund Student Senate keyless entry. And the other one is a bill to amend the rules and regulations, which hopefully would end up transforming SSRR into our new constitution, which would be like our official governing document. And yeah, those would be the last items of our last Senate for the fall. Any questions about the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Awesome.
Wait, could I bring up an issue that I have before?
Oh, yes, sure, because it hasn't been seconded, so
yeah.
Go ahead.
So can we split the like I know realistically it doesn't split the link, but can we add like every SSRR bill on here just so that we make sure we're following like the letter of like how the legislation was passed?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can add those. Yeah, like before we send them, before we upload them to the general channel, I'll make sure like all the items are there.
And at the end of the day, I'll make sure to before I send it. But yeah, I just want to make sure that gets added so that like we have that in thought. Like I know that we're going to like want to envision to pass them all together, but I also want to like respect that like we put them through committees in a very way to keep it as like a holistic document. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's no problem. I'll make the space there. Yeah, there we go. All right, yeah, I'll add the full term once we go ahead and once I add that. But hey. But yeah, so with that, we I know Holly made a motion. Do we have a second for that motion? Awesome, thanks, Ethan. Okay, so all of those in favor of voting on this agenda, please say aye on the chat. And remember, like, you're a voting member if you're a committee chair, StudEx, or Holly, Daphne, Naya, Ethan, and Holly. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, with that, this agenda gets approved. Thank you all very much. I'll make sure to add the other part to it. With that, we are going to move to our next item, which is a brief chat about the Constitution. So mostly the Constitution went through all committees, which is already a huge progress from last year, because last year the new SSRR got basically shut down in committees. So having passed that is like a great achievement, but we can't I guess celebrate until it doesn't get approved by the full Senate. So yep, that will be coming up. It will be like hopefully like if folks show up to our review sessions that are gonna happen tomorrow and maybe on Wednesday, as well as we were thinking about recording one of our review sessions to make sure folks can like look it over and make any comments, any still suggestions, amendments they want to make before Wednesday. Mostly, I know like there's some suggestions that got brought up in student rights. Some is related to like creating a payment or some sort of stipend or just remuneration for our legislative branch, because maybe that could get that whole branch more active, considering it has been really inactive in the past. And then we are also going to be meeting with the members of UA, since I know we discussed it with Faith and just other folks in UA about like the merger of the University Affairs Committee and Student Rights. But we just thought it would be a good idea to still discuss it with other senators in UA, so maybe like the associate senator, just other folks that attend the UA meetings, so that they don't feel like we completely like overstepped and just took the decision like by ourselves. But that will be happening in those review sessions tomorrow and on Wednesday, and hopefully like we can make any amendments that are required, make any changes that might be suggested and that we think are a good idea. And then the idea is that hopefully by Wednesday we don't necessarily have to like discuss it super much. I mean, of course, it can still be discussed. Like that's not up to us; it's up to the senators. But if we are able to discuss it as much as possible beforehand, then like we will have a more clear idea once we're going into the Senate. But are there any other points or suggestions that I forgot to bring up, Ethan, that might have been brought up in rights?
Nothing that I can really think of. A lot of it was like friendly language modification. Oh, I guess the one thing that I think was brought up as well was like the elections code and the modifications to campaign finance and what that'll look like for next year. There was some sort of discussion on like whether or not like we should be having the resource clause as stipulated in the new constitution or maintain the old funding system there. That's the only other one I can think of that I heard brought up argument-wise against the document.
Awesome. Yep. No.
And Mary
and
does have her
you know.
hand raised as well.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah, Mary, feel free to go ahead.
I was just wondering kind of where SSRR is in regards to the meeting that Ethan, Naya, and I had with ASHC and AURH. Are we keeping the language that we have in SSRR the same, or are we going to change it like they encouraged?
So we can look at that in terms of like the full Senate meeting. The problem is, since it has passed committees with the language that it has, we kind of can't affect that unless an amendment was brought up in committee. And like StudEx is like specifically prohibited from bringing in amendments like that. So that's something that we'll probably be discussing more than likely in full Senate as to like what any amendments to that will look like, if any come up at all.
Do we have plans to bring in Carson and Ethan C to talk about that in full Senate?
Well, realistically, like anyone could come into the full Senate. It really is just going to be more of a planning thing because sort of quite honestly, with the discussions that were had with Carson and Ethan, it was that we wanted to start building that relationship, not necessarily start legislating it. So I guess we'll see like if this full Senate is one that we want to bring them in and like propose a formal amendment, or if it'll be something that we want to do next semester when the relationship is like more solidified and put together there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, and just to clarify on that, like on the process on getting these amendments and like the review sessions we're gonna have. So mostly tomorrow when we review the Constitution, like in this next couple review sessions, we can't like necessarily make any edits like right there in the review sessions, as Ethan said. So whatever we decide is something that will definitely be changed in the document, then we kind of create a bill to amend that in the Constitution, like when we're reviewing it in full Senate. Any other questions about?
Sarah asked in the chat here, where did the document land regarding ranked choice voting? We are now doing single choice plurality voting, Sarah. So that would be what's currently in the elections code for what's in the new document on the elections code. I shouldn't say currently, that's an ambiguity. But yeah, so we will be moving back to plurality voting instead, since that's the voting system that Student Senate can work under there. Mary, did you have another question, or is your hand just still up?
I forgot to put my hand down, my bad.
Back to you, Umberto.
All right. Any final questions? Awesome. So with that, we can move to our next item in the agenda, which is figuring out how we are going to work, because Sabina won't be present in the office or doing like a lot of work related stuff for the next couple of weeks until like we come back in the semester. And so we have to, find a way to still be functional as a Senate without having Sabina present. So that involves like communication with student groups, just welcoming in people in the Student Senate office. But, I'm open to hearing specific suggestions, maybe, I don't know if from Sarah or from Hamad that work most direct. Well, I'm not saying that Sarah works directly with Sabina, but I know that Sarah will be helping out just in general. But I know Hamad did and Mary worked very closely with Sabina. So do you all have any suggestions or points that you would like to bring up at this point about this topic?
Sarah, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Hey, y'all. So, this may be news to some of you, or others maybe not, but just so you all know, with Dr. Jane Tuttle's retirement, I am officially Sabina's supervisor of record. So that means that all of the stuff that she was doing, that she oversaw, including all of your payroll, will shift to me in her absence during FMLA. So please bear with me. I'm going to try and get up to speed as quickly as I can. This was all very sudden and very not entirely expected. So if you have questions, if you need anything, please feel free to email me. I'm also very accessible on Teams, so you can message me. Happy to take questions that way. Also, if you haven't come to visit me in my office at the end of the hallway, just walk out that Student Senate door, walk all the way down to the end of the hallway, door on the left. Please come visit. Happy to meet with anybody, talk about anything. I'm going to be meeting with Hamad tomorrow to try and sort through a whole bunch of student organization payment processing things that need to be handled. I'm going to be coordinating with HR to make sure that I can get access to approve your payrolls. I worry there may be a slight delay. I know that tomorrow is supposed to be a reconciliation, and I think she did. I think Sabina did most of them. If there are anybody who did not respond to any clarification emails with Sabina, please let me know. I do want to try and get that as timely for you as possible, but I will not know if I even have access to it until tomorrow. So there's going to be a whole lot of things, but the Silk office is here for you all. We do have a front desk, and we're happy to, coordinate collecting packages, getting them. We do have a key to your office, to the Senate office. So if things need to be dropped off in there, I can make sure that happens. If folks need access to the office and somebody who usually does is not available, please come visit me and I can help coordinate that as well. Maybe this will be a really great opportunity. I get to finally meet some of you in person. That would be fantastic. But please, if you have questions right now off the bat, let me know. Otherwise, again, email me, come visit me, message me on Teams. I will try to be as accessible as possible to you all to get through this this transition here at the end of the semester.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hamad, you can jump into.
Yeah, so the reason I added this to the agenda was this is going to be the first time we as Student Senate are talking about the leave of absence. So the start of it was November 24th, and it's going to be at least till January 7th, according to the email that Sabina sent out to all of the exec and CCO. This is going to affect everybody's operations because she was the one who was purchasing everything for the student groups and Senate, and that's actually more important than just being in the office and opening, being there when people arrive, right? So I need the, approval of Student Senate to possibly change, look into the possibility of changing how we do our purchases, to change it from the associate staff person to possibly something that's more automated through a web form. So this is a discussion I think we are destined to have because Student Senate has been pretty behind in what the technology that we use for how we do purchases. The nice thing is that I am meeting with I had a pre-planned meeting with some of the finance people at our university this week, actually tomorrow. That was scheduled weeks in advance. So to talk about how Student Senate does its purchases, and there is this web service at the university called SSC, who I've been emailing with to see, hey, what are our options? And there is a service level agreement that they have on their website that I wanted to share with you guys before this meeting. So it's an exposure that you guys have before I bring any ideas to the table. So is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, of course. Let me stop sharing mine.
Yeah. By no means is this something that I have not talked to them directly about this yet, so I'm meeting with them for the first time this week. And this was more of a meeting to see, hey, how can we improve Student Senate possibly next school year, right? Or next after spring or after the winter break. But here, I'll share my screen. So the reason why bringing it to you guys first and then hopefully full Senate this week is so we can figure out how we want to move forward with how purchases are done for student groups, because I'm pretty sure Sarah can't handle all the purchases of over 100 student groups, including CCO, on our own. But let's see. That's not the right one. But we, like, even in the past week since Sabina has gone for leave, we have seen, like, a student group had an event this morning, which is Sunday, and they had asked us 10 days in advance to pay for a rental in the OMA, and they weren't able to get that purchase done because we didn't have any type of backup plan as far as how to make sure student group purchases are done. So there's this document that's called the service level agreement and then SSC is shared service centers at the University of Kansas. So they have this document on their website, and it entails like how groups on campus, that be departments, students, staff members, can have all their finances run by this office as far as purchases go, to make sure they're in compliance with the rules and regulations at the university, but at the same time still have ownership over purchases, approving such purchases that you may need for your department, and what SSC is essentially trying to do is make it easier for students, staff, faculty, in handling all of the purchases by SSC, but making it easier at the end of the day for the departments department level heads and directors. So we'll scroll down to a certain section. So SSC services for finances. So we would be, after the meeting with them and approval from Student Senate to move towards something like this, there would be division in what we can do with them. So while we would have be making expenditures and funding decisions on our end, we would also be having meetings with them, making sure all transactions are accounted for, and reconcile all P card transactions. So they would assist us with making sure our purchases are done. To a certain degree, we already have SSC individuals within Senate already that are working with us, but in current state, our staff associate was our SSC person who was making all of our purchases for us. By moving towards something more automated, we would be getting assistance from a university department to help with some of these more complicated transactions, that be travel, making larger purchases, but we would still have access to the same purchase techniques that we used to have, such as our credit card, ways to pay people for honorariums. And I believe Sarah has some experience working with SSC because every department uses it. Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about how SSC interacts with the work that you do currently?
Sure. So the shared service centers were created a few years ago prior to me starting at the university, but basically what it did is it removed HR and finance people from each individual department across the campus and housed them in a centralized location so everything could kind of be centrally operated, and therefore the people who oversee all the financial stuff and all of the human resource stuff are specialized in that particular field, and they happen to support multiple departments or offices across campus. So there's a bunch of people in there, and they're broken up into different sections of campus, and then there's staff that oversee, groups of departments. The person that I work with, she also works with many different other student affairs departments. And so what it looks like on a regular basis for the Silk office, for example, we do have a P card. We order things that we need to within the bounds of what's allowable by a P card. There are all sorts of rules that regulate that as well. And we reconcile it in coordination with the SSC person. So like, for example, I purchased something with the P card. I need to get an itemized receipt with proof of payment. And I need to have a business purpose explaining why I'm doing it. If it's for an event, I need like a flyer or an agenda. And I send all of that to my SSC person, and they take care of making sure that the payment is reconciled on the back end. So I just need to make sure I get the receipts is basically in the proof of what it's for, and I hand that stuff over, and the SSC person takes care of inputting everything, and then it will eventually show up in my budget. So, we have a Staples account. Most departments have their own Staples account, just like Sabina ordered stuff through Staples, same thing. Again, coordinating with the SSC person. If you have to purchase things outside of the normal bounds of like Staples or a P card, if you need to create a purchase order, for example, ordering T-shirts, that kind of thing, my team would take care of working with the vendor to make the order, and then we would submit all of the information to initiate the purchase order through the SSC. They would take care of that. We'd wait for our product. They would circle around and make sure the invoice got paid. So they really take a lot of the logistical heavy lifting hassle of paperwork away from you, and they coordinate all of that. Not to say you shouldn't also keep your own spreadsheets, but they take care of inputting all of that into the right cost centers and chart fields that are necessary to keep track of. You just got to tell them to charge what to what, and they'll take care of inputting all of that for you. And it's I've worked with some various different SSC people, and it is a great service, and it certainly streamlines a lot of the process. It makes it all funnel through like one person, and they are very good about walking you through anything that might be complicated or concerning. And then there still does need to be an approval person, so they'll input everything, and then the final approval of like hit the go button still gets emailed to me on a regular basis. Anytime there's a big bill or something, if there's a payment of any kind, the SSC person takes care of all the paperwork, and then I get an email simply asking me to approve or reject. So that way there's like a check and balance to make sure that, like if I let someone on my team borrow the P card, but I wasn't able to check with them about all their receipts, there's a little pause there when I get the approve or reject from my SSC person, where I can check back and be like, hey, wait, I thought you were going to buy this. It looks like you bought all of these things. Please explain before I approve or reject it. For example, I had a purchase order where the vendor made a mistake, and we needed to actually get some money back from them. And so when I got the approve this invoice for payment, I actually rejected it, and I had to say, actually, we're still working out payment. We need to lower how much we're going to pay them, but there's like that check and balance, so you always are able to circle back on something and double check. I'm happy to, if anyone's like really interested in any of this information, I'm happy to go over it in more detail. Just let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Are there any other comments or questions for Hamad or Sarah? That was a very insightful conversation, and just to give an idea of how things might work and how we can just adapt our processes to make them more easy, I guess. But yeah, do folks have any other thoughts? All right, seeing none. We have just 2 more items in the agenda, which will be really quick.
I guess Umberto, just real quick, are you guys cool with me moving forward with talking with SSC, and probably Wednesday in Senate, I'll let you guys know what happened.
I think that's a great idea, personally.
Cool. I'm going to drop the service level agreement in the chat real quickly so you guys have it.
I was also going to ask, is this something that we'll be adding to the full Senate agenda, or something that you want to wait on? Do you want Senate's consent to do this week?
Do I need student Senate's consent to do this?
I definitely think it helps.
Because the
If you
thing
have
is,
to ask, you probably need it.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's operational, so that's within the treasurer's duty, but also, yeah, if we get the student senate support, then at least we'd know that it's supported in both the legislative and executive branch. So do we want to add like approval of like a new funding mechanism through the SSC to the student senate meeting agenda?
I mean, I don't know what if we're gonna even go to SSC. Like, I need to meet with them first and figure out the logistics of what would happen. But whatever needs to be changed would need to be changed in the next 3 days. Like, this is not going to be something that I'm waiting around. And this has to be implemented right now because student groups are already hurting because we don't have someone doing purchases for us in an immediate need.
I think Naya's question is important because I guess you having the meeting, I don't see why you need Senate's approval for that. If you want to change things, the operations, once you've spoken, then obviously you do, like speaking to what Naya posted in the chat.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. The meeting was there just to get information. Now it's going to be get information and then I guess bring a decision to student senate of, hey, or a proposal of what we can do. And then student senate would approve the change. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
And see, that's why I'm wondering whether or not we might want to add it to the Senate agenda because really it is something that is critical to us funding student groups and like continuing to make these purchases.
Yeah, you can add it as like don't specify it's SSC. Just say operational changes
For purchases.
For student groups.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I can definitely add an item like that to the agenda.
Yeah.
All right. So does that help you, Hamad? Just
Yeah.
like about to have an idea. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that helps because like I just don't want to make sure like it doesn't look like Hamad's doing something fishy around here. But at the same time, it is a big change of how students will interact with Senate, and we'll make sure it's like all posted on our website and everything.
Okay.
Sarah?
If it helps at all, one of the big reasons to do this is the kind of example you're in right now, where your assistant is going on leave or anytime she would like go on vacation or that kind of thing, and becomes inaccessible. With the SSC, you work with you have a particular point person who processes all your paperwork. However, if they ever go on leave or if they go on vacation or if they're sick, there's always somebody else designated to take over their work that very day. Like, so there's like, they have backups. So it kind of fills a big gap. So that if there's ever any, reason why, your assistant wasn't available, well, if you're using the SSC, you're not going to have that problem ever.
And then I guess on to like what you were saying also before, like the Silk office is going to be able to like fill the gaps in other areas of service that would normally need to be addressed, Sarah?
I would certainly like to try. I guess it depends on what you're meaning very specifically. But the Silk office is happy to meet with any and all student organizations to talk them through various processes. It's something we do on a regular basis. We give them guidance on financial matters, so we could simply also help them with making some decisions regarding purchasing as well. Is there a specific
I guess like I was specifically relating to sort of like package delivery and then also like, reception, making sure that, the desk is able to like do all of the student senate stuff, which I think will actually be very easy to accomplish.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we have, any day that the union and our offices are open, there are going to be several weeks during winter break, but you'll all be gone, that all the offices are working from home. But It's not till the end of the semester. So other than that, if we are there, we are happy to interact with students, help with package pickup, delivery, facilitating that. Like I said, do have a key if that's necessary. If we need to, we're happy to store things behind the silk front desk and or, put things in the Senate office for you all. We do plenty of mail and package pickup and assistance for student orgs writ large. Student organizations have mail delivered to the Silk office all the time, so we are already doing that. So it would just kind of add to the queue that we already have going.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification, Sarah.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I also put in the duties of the staff associate in the chat. What are like in the actual job description, so we can just go ahead and skim through it and see like, hey, what other things like that we haven't explicitly called out at this meeting. We can probably make sure those things are covered too. That way nothing is left out at the end of the day.
Any other points that should be discussed before we move into our next item? All right. Seeing none, Ethan, would you like to take over to chat about this?
Sure. So yeah, for this topic, it's really just a housekeeping thing. Making sure that we know like when we're going to be like able to meet this winter to like set up everything for the spring for StudEx and for full Senate. So this is really just sort of like declaring an arbitrary date in the middle of like the winter break that we're going to be able to meet and discuss these things as we prepare for next semester. And so, yeah, I guess like I was just looking for folks' availability and like when we would be able to have a StudEx meeting ahead of the next semester.
For me, as long as I know like a week in advance, that would be fine. I will be here the whole break. Would this be an in-person or a Zoom meeting?
Most likely on Teams here.
Teams. I always say Zoom when I mean Teams. Yeah, then for me, as long as I know ahead of time and it's in my calendar, I can be there.
And Umberto, Mary has a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I was just wondering if this was something we could do a when to meet for.
Oh yeah, I can probably send a when to meet to the chat and then we can all fill it out.
I guess the thing would be like we might want to like pick a week for that when to meet.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going across like 3 or 4 different weeks.
Well, no, I mean I would most definitely do it like the week before school starts.
Yeah.
Does school start on the 17th of January?
Let me check the academic calendar.
Yeah, Martin Luther King
It
Jr.
does.
President's Day, right? Or no,
Yep.
MLK Day. The day
Perfect.
after.
Then I'm gonna send a when to meet for the week before, so 10th through the 14th.
Okay.
Basically, yeah. Awesome. And then our final item in the agenda would be weekend meetings for spring. So of course we just do not want to under like for any circumstance have to meet in the weekend. So yeah, we are gonna try to like find a better date that works for everyone. I know that's a little bit hard, but I mean not everyone is able to come on Sundays anyway. So like if we are able to find another date that might work better for people or that is like during a normal week, that would be ideal. But what do folks think?
I guess personally, I would just like to introduce a motion to call for a special rule that StudEx can't meet on the weekends. I know it's very tempting, especially as we sort of go through our weekly schedule, but I don't think it's healthy for us mentally to like have to continue to like meet on the weekends and be ready to like face this stuff. Like it makes it to where some weeks we only have like one day where we're able to recharge. And so having these meetings, I think during the like school week is important for us.
I can second it if it's a motion.
I'm not exactly sure how it would work. Is it something we vote on right now, like, and we add it to SSRR, or is that something we can
It's
just...
nothing that you add to SSR. Essentially, like if you add a special, it's basically like a Robert's Rules thing, where you essentially create a special rule for the committee you're on to follow until that rule is like absolved.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Yeah, so we vote all on the motion, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there's been a motion put on the floor and it's been properly seconded. Oh, Holly's on point. She already voted. So yeah, all those in favor say aye, please, on the chat.
And realistically, this will most likely just be added to like the office policy manual for posterity. In that case.
We are missing just one vote. Emma, would you like to vote in favor of not having StudEx on Sundays? Or I mean the weekends in general? Oh, there we go. Awesome. Thank you very much. So with that, we have approved this motion. So we'll probably add this into our office policy manual where we just don't meet on the weekends because it is kind of ridiculous. And I know, and this goes into like what we discussed last time. I think that how even Portugal is not letting folks work like after work hours. So maybe that's another step we would consider taking in the future, just for, you know, people's mental health and for them not to stop being a student first. Yes, Holly.
I have a question. I don't know if this would go in announcements because it's not really an announcement, but have we discussed, because I'm guessing this is our last StudEx before break. I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
It is.
Okay. Have we discussed like if salaried people are going to hourly over break, and if how many hours hourly staff members can work and stuff like that, because that might be good to talk about right now.
I can talk about it. So how it's been explained to me is that once it's the last day of school, after that week, everybody would go to hourly for winter break. I believe we are not allowed to clock in during the week of Christmas because the university is shut down that week. So no operational work can happen at that time. Anyone who is not in the salary 5, so the salary 5 are myself, Naya, Ethan, Holly, and Umberto. You guys are eligible to go up to 20 hours a week. And then people who are the salary 5, you guys are like the funding allocated to your positions can go up to 40 hours a week. But just know that you can't do overtime at all, and you may not clock in during the week that the university is closed because the funding is not allocated for that week for anyone.
Would that be from the 20th to the 24th of December?
Let me just see when the university shut down.
Is that correct for salaried people as well? Because last year I was salaried over break because they didn't want me to work up to 40 because I have a different pay grade to others. So that was kind of my question too. And I know that's specific to me, so we may not need to discuss
specific
it.
to you and Umberto, I'll get back to you guys via email. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I'll put that on my to-do list for tomorrow. I'll be in the office all day tomorrow, so
thank you, Hamad. I appreciate it.
just text me if you guys need anything.
I guess I had another question. Like, it's determined solely like in consultation with like the treasurer's office and the president, right? In terms of like what the hours will look like and for hourly and salary.
It's the treasurer and the staff associate, and then enforcement of hours is done by chief of staff, but the allocation of hours is done by the treasurer.
Okay. And I guess like my other question is, would we be able to just maintain the salary for like the salaried 5 then, since the funding is going to be going there, or
we can?
Yeah, but the salary would be locked in at 29 hours.
Right. Okay. All right, those are all my questions. Then.
Yeah, and I can message each one individually, and we can.
Maybe we just talk about it in our group chat
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check in with you guys individually tomorrow. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. So any final comments, concerns, announcements before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, just send a reaction. All opposed, abstentions. Yay. So we have adjourned. Thank you all.